Good day and welcome to NoorNews. Today, we are tracking rising tensions in Bologna following violent protests, while Kuwait issues a stern warning to Iran over recent regional aggression. We also bring you the latest on the shifting security landscape in Lebanon. Let's begin with the situation in Italy. Violent clashes have erupted in the Italian city of Bologna, where dozens of people have been injured during protests following the death of a Moroccan-born man while in police custody. According to the BBC, thousands of demonstrators took to the streets on Tuesday to demand justice and transparency regarding the circumstances of the man's death, which occurred this past Sunday. The situation escalated as protesters confronted law enforcement, leading to a series of skirmishes throughout the city center. Local authorities report that several officers and civilians sustained injuries during the unrest, while property damage has been noted across the protest route. The man, whose identity has not been publicly released, reportedly died shortly after being restrained by police officers during an intervention. While the exact cause of death remains under investigation, the incident has sparked significant public outcry and renewed debates regarding police conduct and the treatment of minority communities in Italy. Officials have called for calm as the judicial inquiry into the incident proceeds, with forensic experts currently reviewing evidence to determine the sequence of events that led to the fatality. Further demonstrations are expected in the coming days as community leaders continue to press for a full and independent investigation into the police response. The Kuwaiti Cabinet has officially held Iran fully responsible for recent aggressive attacks targeting the country, as well as for the subsequent fallout resulting from these incidents. According to the Qatar news agency, QNA, the government's stance was formalized during a high-level cabinet meeting held in Kuwait City on July 21. The official statement underscores the administration's position regarding regional security and the direct accountability of the Iranian state for the hostile actions directed against Kuwaiti territory. While the cabinet did not elaborate on specific tactical details of the attacks in their public briefing, the declaration marks a significant escalation in diplomatic rhetoric between the two nations. The Kuwaiti government has indicated that it is currently reviewing its security protocols in light of these developments to ensure the protection of national infrastructure and sovereignty. Regional analysts suggest that this formal attribution of responsibility reflects growing concerns within the Gulf Cooperation Council regarding cross-border stability. The Kuwaiti authorities have reiterated their commitment to maintaining regional order while emphasizing that the responsibility for the consequences of these provocations lies solely with Tehran. Further updates on the government's diplomatic response are expected as the situation continues to develop throughout the week. At least 12 people have been killed in a series of Israeli airstrikes across the Gaza Strip, according to reports confirmed by medical officials on the ground. Among the casualties was a family of 6, identified as Faraz al-Masri, his wife, and their 4 children, who were killed when their home was struck. According to the BBC, the Israeli military has acknowledged the operation, stating that the strikes were intended to target a specific Hamas operative. The military has not provided further details regarding the identity of the individual or the specific intelligence that led to the strike on the residential building. This incident is part of an ongoing escalation in the region, which continues to result in significant civilian loss of life. International humanitarian organizations have repeatedly raised concerns regarding the impact of these strikes on densely populated areas, calling for increased measures to protect non-combatants. As the military campaign continues, local health authorities report that the death toll in Gaza continues to rise, with infrastructure damage complicating rescue and recovery efforts for those trapped under the rubble. We will continue to monitor the situation as more information becomes available from verified sources on the ground. 2 French firefighters have died while battling a significant blaze near the Bordeaux-Marignac airport. According to the BBC, the fire broke out in close proximity to the airport's parking facilities, forcing emergency services to initiate an immediate response to contain the flames and prevent further spread toward the terminal buildings. Preliminary reports indicate that the incident originated as a brush fire, which quickly escalated due to environmental conditions near the site. The loss of the 2 responders has prompted an outpouring of grief from local officials and emergency services across the region. Authorities have launched an investigation to determine the exact cause of the initial ignition and to assess the circumstances that led to the fatalities during the operation. While the fire was situated near critical infrastructure, airport operations were managed under strict safety protocols as crews worked to extinguish the blaze. The incident highlights the ongoing challenges faced by emergency personnel in the region as they contend with the risks associated with brush fires. Further updates are expected as forensic teams continue their work at the scene to provide a comprehensive account of the events that transpired during the emergency response effort. New data reveals a significant environmental milestone for the Amazon rainforest, as the total area affected by fire in 2025 has dropped to its lowest level since records began in 1985. According to the BBC, which analyzed findings from the monitoring initiative Map Biomas, the decline marks a historic low for the world's largest tropical rainforest. The report indicates that the reduction in burned land is a notable departure from previous years, where deforestation and climate-related drought conditions frequently exacerbated fire activity across the basin. While the Amazon has faced intense pressure from land clearing and shifting weather patterns over the past 4 decades, this year's figures suggest a sharp contraction in the scale of fire-related damage. Environmental analysts are currently reviewing the specific factors contributing to this decline, including potential shifts in government enforcement policies, changes in agricultural land management, and variations in regional precipitation levels. Despite this positive trend, experts caution that the ecosystem remains highly vulnerable to climate change, and long-term stability will depend on sustained efforts to curb illegal clearing and manage fire risks. The Map Biomas data serves as a critical benchmark for ongoing conservation efforts, providing a comprehensive look at how the rainforest's landscape has evolved over the last 40 years. Tensions are escalating in Kiev as protesters gather to demand the immediate removal of Ukraine's army chief, Oleksandr Syrsky. Demonstrators have issued an ultimatum, calling for his dismissal and the reinstatement of former Defense Minister Mikhailo Fedorov by this coming Friday. The protests reflect growing internal friction regarding the current military leadership and the strategic direction of the ongoing conflict. According to reports from the BBC and Al Jazeera, the unrest highlights a deepening divide within the country's political and military establishment as the government faces mounting pressure to address public dissatisfaction with its high-level appointments. While the Ukrainian government has yet to issue a formal response to the specific demands of the protesters, the situation remains fluid. Analysts suggest that the call for Fedorov's return signals a desire among certain factions for a shift in administrative oversight, though there is currently no indication that the administration intends to comply with the Friday deadline. The protests come at a critical juncture for the military, which is already managing the logistical and tactical challenges of the front line. As the deadline approaches, observers are closely monitoring whether these demonstrations will lead to significant policy changes or if the government will maintain its current leadership structure despite the public outcry. The Lebanese armed forces have confirmed the commencement of troop deployments into a designated pilot zone in southern Lebanon, following the initial withdrawal of Israeli military units from the area. This movement marks the first tangible step in a U.S.-brokered agreement aimed at de-escalating the ongoing conflict between Israel and Hezbollah. According to reports from the BBC and Al Jazeera, the withdrawal is currently limited to a specific, small sector of the occupied territory. Military officials in Beirut stated that the deployment is intended to re-establish state authority in the border region, a key component of the ceasefire framework currently under international observation. While the withdrawal is being framed as a positive development by diplomatic mediators, analysts note that the transition remains fragile. The presence of the Lebanese army in this pilot zone is intended to serve as a buffer, though the long-term viability of the agreement depends on the successful implementation of broader security protocols. Both the BBC and Al Jazeera indicate that while the initial pullout has proceeded without significant incident, the situation on the ground remains fluid. International observers are monitoring the deployment closely to ensure compliance with the terms established during recent negotiations, as the parties attempt to stabilize the volatile frontier. Thank you for joining us for this verified update on today's global headlines. We will continue to monitor these developing stories throughout the day. NoorNews, verified before published.